Chapter 8. Feeling flustered by Lizzie's comment, Anita walked down the stone pathway and entered Highbrook School's main building. As she stood in the center hall, a sense of calm satisfaction came over her. She stared up at the board and visibly exhaled. While Lizzie always made Anita feel inferior, there was one place Anita knew she excelled: the school leaderboard. When her family had toured the school the year before, they'd learned Highbrook School prided itself on making all student grades public. The best way to push students to success is by having them compete with other students for top honors, Headmaster Dougal told her parents. At first, this worried Anita. Her old school didn't operate that way. Marks were sent home every semester, and other than sharing a mark with a friend after class, one's average was kept private. At Highbrook, a large board in the center of the school tracked every student's current grade average, and grades were updated every Monday morning. Lizzie, always a decent student, but never a stellar one like Anita, always found herself somewhere in the middle of the board. Anita, however, found herself in a different position. She smiled when she saw her name at the top of the board. Anita Weatherby, 5th form, 9A overall average. Directly below her name in the number 2 spot was Roger. She'd taken the lead. Take that, Roger, she thought, even though deep down she knew this was about more than beating Roger. I wish Mom and Dad could see this. At the end of the day, her grades were important for 2 reasons. The student with the highest marks got free tuition to Highbrook the following year, and with funds limited at home, Anita wanted that scholarship. That scholarship could lead to bigger things. Great grades in her 6th form and on her general studies exams meant she could take A-level courses, and then if she aced them, she could get into a university. Yes, university. While it wasn't the norm for many girls she knew in Hampstead, or Highbrook for that matter, Lizzie, for example, insisted she was going right into theater. Anita wanted more. And if she didn't have to trouble her parents with the costs, she suspected they wouldn't argue with her. There also was the small matter of wanting to make Mom and Dad proud as Mom was of Lizzie getting the lead in a play. See me, she wanted to yell. See what I can do, too. The problem was Roger Radcliffe. He'd won the scholarship the prior 2 years, beating her last year by a few points. This year, they were neck and neck, and from what she could tell, their grades were nearly identical. She was keeping track, and apparently he was doing the same. Anita gave the leaderboard one last look, wishing she could take a picture of it to show her parents. Then, with a sigh, she rushed off to the 2nd floor. Miss Norbert usually taught English first, and English was Anita's favorite subject. Roger's too, she thought irritably. When she reached the classroom, Anita stood in the doorway, hating to interrupt Miss Norbert when she was talking. She could hear Miss Norbert discussing subjective texts, so she listened intently, not wanting to miss anything. Their teacher was in her early 20s and not yet married, which was not the norm for women her age in London. Anita often wondered if she had a beau or was dating, but Miss Norbert made no mention of her personal life. Some of the boys called her a spinster, but Anita thought Miss Norbert dressed stylishly, always form-fitting dresses in bright colors, usually with a belt and heels, and most days she wore her black hair up in a neat chignon held at the nape of her neck with a glittery clip. She was simple, but sensible and incredibly kind and enthusiastic. Miss Norbert was her favorite teacher by far. Mrs. Warren, her 4th form teacher, was not nearly as pleasant. Miss Norbert saw her and smiled. Anita, hello, come in and sit down. Roger said your bus was late this morning, so no tardy note necessary. She motioned to the desk, where Roger was already seated, gloating at her from across the aisle. Thank you, Anita said. I was seated in the back of the bus, so it took longer to get off. I apologize for being late. She sat down, opened her notebook, and took out a pencil. Roger cleared his throat. Strange how the rest of us arrived on time. Maybe some of us were too busy being chatty. She shot him a look. What could she call this nuisance of a boy? Ridiculous Roger? Repulsive Roger? Both were slightly better than her original idea, but still not great. We're all here now, Miss Norbert said pleasantly. Anita, we were just discussing subjective text. Would you like to share with the class what that means? Of course, Anita said, immediately feeling comfortable and happy that their teacher hadn't allowed Roger to beat her to the answer. It means the text is written from a particular point of view. Correct? Can you elaborate? Roger's hand immediately shot into the air. Not so fast, Anita thought. Yes, the subject, narrator perhaps, tries to get the reader to take their side, see the world from their view, and that skews the text, Anita said, feeling proud of her answer. Take that, Roger. She couldn't help giving him a look. Exactly, Miss Norbert said, turning to the board and writing Edgar Allan Poe's name. We will be studying many of his works this year, in particular, The Tell-Tale Heart, over the next few weeks. We will be trying to understand why Poe used unreliable narrators so often. What did he hope to teach us using a voice that we couldn't always trust? Miss Norbert? Roger's hand was waving in the air. May I add something to the discussion? Anita ground her teeth. Yes, Roger, what is it? Many people fail to see the true meaning of Poe's stories, that we, as the reader, always act as if we're an accomplice to many of the crimes he writes about, like in The Black Cat and the Cask of Amontillado. If I'm mispronouncing that, please correct me. Thank you, Roger, for that enlightened thought. Any others, class, before I continue? Only Anita and Roger ever raised their hands in class. Very well. I'd like to hand back your papers on Virginia Woolf. There was a collective groan. Now, don't be worried. Some of you did quite well. Miss Norbert placed the paper on Anita's desk. A bright red A+ shone back at her. Anita's shoulders relaxed. Her 98 average stayed intact. Maybe with this, she might even be closer to 99. She'd received 2 A's this week already. Maybe she'd show this paper to Mom and Dad and tell them about the leaderboard at dinner. She could almost hear their praise. Roger cleared his throat, fanning himself with his paper, and Anita faltered. A+. An obnoxious smile played on his lips. This brought Roger's average up for sure. Her heart started to pound at the very thought. That was when there was a knock on the classroom door. Headmaster Dougal appeared in the doorway with Stella. Miss Norbert, good morning. I have a new student transferring into your class from Mr. Hennison's room. Great, Roger muttered under his breath. Roger dabbed at his brow, and Anita noticed he was sweating. Did Stella make him nervous? Transferring? Miss Norbert looked confused. Yes, well, Miss DeVille wasn't feeling the most welcome in Mr. Hennison's class, and her father, one of our newest board members at the school, requested her transfer. I have her current grades from the last few weeks here in these papers. He cleared his throat. Mr. DeVille is hoping you might be able to help his daughter excel in English where she has not. Of course, if Stella likes English, she's come to the right place, Miss Norbert smiled. Stella picked at one of her nails, which were painted red. Nail polish was against the rules at Highbrook, but it appeared the headmaster had bigger problems. Anita had seen Stella's name on the board. She was hovering somewhere in the 70s range for grades. All good then? He handed Miss Norbert the papers. For sure, you'll find Miss DeVille delightful. You mean Cruella, a boy named Petey said under his breath. Some of the other students, like Roger, snickered. Stella shot him a look straight out of a Poe story. Petey grew quiet. Miss Norbert cleared her throat. Class, where are your manners? Let's all say hello to Stella DeVille, please. Hello, Stella, the class said in unison. Stella, there is a seat in the front row if you like, Miss Norbert offered. Stella scanned the room, spotted Anita, and walked straight to the seat next to her, where Stephen Brown was seated. Move, she said to him. take the front row seat instead." Stephen didn't even question her. He got up as quickly as he could and practically ran. Roger watched the exchange and dabbed at his forehead again. Stella smiled at Miss Norbert. "It appears there is a seat next to Anita Weatherby. I'll take that one instead." She sat down and with her eyes dared Miss Norbert to argue with her. Anita tried not to show her surprise. Had Stella transferred into the class to be with her? Miss Norbert cleared her throat. "Well, that's settled. Now, where were we? We were talking about subjective text, and I was saying how it's used in other Poe stories as I read ahead," Roger blurted out. "So have I," Anita said, raising her hand too. Miss Norbert laughed. "I love how motivated you both are. Speaking of which, if anyone was unhappy with their grade," Anita and Roger both raised their hands, then lowered them. "What are you all unhappy about?" Anita grumbled to Roger. "You got top marks. So did you. I'm unhappy that you're unhappy and going to try to get your grade changed when you don't deserve it," Roger fired back. "I'm not asking for my grade to be changed. I'm asking for extra credit," Anita said. "Actually, that's what I was getting to," Miss Norbert cut them off. "I wanted to offer the entire class the chance to earn extra credit by doing some volunteer work with me." Anita and Roger both shot their hands in the air again. "You don't even know what you're volunteering for yet," Miss Norbert said lightly. "Doesn't matter. I'm always happy to help," said Roger. "So am I," Anita chimed in. The two gave each other skeptical looks. "Wonderful. I'm happy to have you both. Anyone else want to join Anita and Roger before I tell you what we're going to be doing to get extra credit? It will be on Saturdays, which I know is not ideal, but I promise it's a worthwhile endeavor." Miss Norbert looked around. "There is room for more volunteers." No one raised their hand. Anita wasn't surprised. Not everyone was as motivated to earn extra credit as she and Roger were. Stella was still staring at her nails. Miss Norbert smiled slyly. "Well, I have some information that may change your minds. With Headmaster Dougal's permission, I'm offering any student who agrees to do volunteer work with me to have their lowest grade in the class dropped for the semester." There was a small ripple of discussion in the classroom. Anita's heart started to thump wildly at the thought. Her lowest grade was that horrible B she got on a poetry assignment, and without that B, she could easily stay in the top spot. And in addition to dropping a grade, to sweeten the deal, I will also choose one volunteer to get an automatic A+ added to their overall grade. We'll call that the Most Helpful Volunteer Award. Anita's heart was pounding. A free A+? This was unheard of. If Roger beat her on an upcoming test, this A+ could keep her in the highest standing. Anita looked around at her competition. The other students all stared at their desk unpersuaded. Then she saw Stella slowly raise her hand, a pencil still stuck between her fingers. "I'll do it." This caused more whispers. Anita had seen Stella's spot on the leaderboard. Maybe she cared about her grade average more than Anita had assumed. "That's wonderful, Stella," Miss Norbert said. "Since your father is a board member, I'm sure he'll be pleased to see you getting involved at Highbrook." Miss Norbert strolled to the bulletin board, clearly smelling a victory. "We have 3 volunteers. Anita, Roger, and Stella will join me this Saturday at the Hampton House for Dogs and Cats." "Wait, did you say dogs?" Stella said the word like it was the kiss of death. "Yes, dogs and cats." Miss Norbert pointed a blue flyer pinned to the cork that usually held school announcements. Anita hadn't noticed this one before. It featured drawings of animals on it underneath the words Hampton House for Dogs and Cats. "On weekends, I volunteer my time at the Hampton House for Dogs and Cats, a wonderful organization that takes in unwanted animals and feeds and cares for them until they're adopted by families." "Isn't that what a dog pound is for?" Petey asked. Miss Norbert wrinkled her nose. "No, this is much more humane and wonderful. They shelter animals and find them new homes, however long it takes. They care for over 200 darling dogs and cats and needs lots of volunteers to tend to them, play with them, feed them. It's an expensive endeavor, as you can imagine. We're trying to get funding or a sponsorship from a pet food company like Canine Crunchies to help feed the little deers. She waved her hand around. Oh, look at me, getting all passionate. Stella flicked her hand. I think I changed my mind. Good, we don't need Stella's help, Roger blurted out. I could do all the volunteer work myself. Oh, no, you don't, Anita thought, fuming. Do you even have a dog? She asked him, and Roger blinked. She'd take that as a no. My family has a corgi, and we love dogs, Anita told Miss Norbert, being bold for once. I think I'm the right volunteer to help at the shelter. Miss Norbert tried to hide her smile. We need all the help we can get, so I'm thankful all three of you can join me. You included, Stella. I promise it will be fun. Stella grimaced, but she didn't argue. Anita suspected this was not her idea of fun. Spending the morning with Roger wasn't ideal to Anita either. She found herself looking over in annoyance at him. He gave her an equally disdainful glance. Great, it's settled. I'll meet you all at the shelter this Saturday morning at 9, Miss Norbert told them. This is going to be fun. Anita bit the inside of her cheek. 9 a.m. on a Saturday was going to be asking a lot of Stella.